then just as we wrap things up, what advice would you give to other communicators trying to navigate the EU institutions, especially if they're working on, as we said, polarizing or highly technical topics?
Hmm. I would say, I mean, one thing I would say is don't negate traditional media. There's a perception that because, social media is so ubiquitous across Brussels and, across the world that traditional media doesn't matter. And I think that's mistaken. So much of the agenda is still driven by media. And to give an example, the commission president, it is known her cabinet, they selectively brief certain hand-chosen journalists, shall we say, to set the news agenda. And Brussels still runs on the news agenda. There is this quite thriving media scene. The total overall number of journalists has been cut back, but it is still quite vibrant here. And that can still have a big impact on outcomes. It can still be a very powerful tool. And coming back to something Mark says, it's a very person to person driven industry, heavily reliant on relationship building and information exchange and becoming credible amongst, your key journalists. I think, don't be afraid to push the bounds and try things. A failed stunt that still makes headlines is just as effective as a stunt that is super effective. People are looking for innovation and interesting things to happen in Brussels. So something that goes against the grain and just makes people stop and think. And I mean that literally, as in if you do something outside the European Parliament that involves, I don't know, floats and things like that, that literally makes people stop in their tracks. That can be super effective and have people talking for weeks and weeks and weeks.